You. Don't you supposed to be here to protect and serve? Aren't you here to protect and serve? Aren't you here to protect and serve?
The protesters moving them on through the heart of LA. You just shut the fuck up.
You okay?
I'm good. I'm good.
Are you okay?
You can't give that. You can't call an ambulance.
I want you to, hello, Congresswoman Waters. I just came to use my congressional authority to check on David.
Ma'am, our lobby is secure right now to all visitors.
Excuse me, I need to get in.
Contact our public affairs office.
I need to get in.
What are you hoping to do, Congresswoman?
I just want to see David work. Right.
Would a congressperson normally be able to enter the...
Normally, yes.
What is happening here?
Well, there were some of the authorities, I don't know who they were, and I'm trying to get in to see David Werther, who they have arrested. He is the head of SEIU local union here. I don't know why he was targeted. I don't know what they're doing with him. I don't know whether they're going to deport him. I want to report back to my caucus about what's happening. But take pictures of these guns and let people know that they're in our city with guns, and I'm sure they have orders to shoot and kill. I don't know, but otherwise they wouldn't have guns.
One question, Representative Ms. Waters. If there's one statement that you, or a message that you could send to Donald Trump, what is that message here today?
My message to Donald Trump is you are a cruel human being, and that you're using the poorest people in the land, the most vulnerable people in the land, to promote your politics. You are wrong. We know what this is all about. We have people who are immigrants here who are trying to seek a better living, who have come from places where they have experienced this kind of thing that he's doing here today. People who work every day, people who are paying taxes, who are raising their families, who are supporting education. They should not be treated this way. They should be given an opportunity to tell their story, whom they are, and why they're here, and ask the United States to please do what the Constitution allows us to do, and that is give them consideration for having citizenship here.
Ms. Maxine Waters, thank you for those words. Another thing, do you find it coincidental that this is happening at this time of the year right now? Is there anything that you can correlate with the timeline that it's happening with right now alongside?
No, I think that the president has not been able to live up to the threat that he used during his campaign, where he was going to get millions of them out of here. And I think it's come to the point where he thinks he's got to show something. But also, his ridiculousness is taking over the armed services to celebrate his birthdays coming up. And people are saying, are you going to spend millions of dollars celebrating your birthday using the armed services to do it? And I think that adds to it. All of this is coming to the forefront now.
And Congresswoman, how should the city of LA and the state of California react to this? What's the smart play here?
All of the elected officials in this city should be on the street. The mayor should be on the street. The city council should be on the street. Everybody should be on the street. All of the state elected officials. All of us in Congress. We're supposed to be in Congress tomorrow. But I want you to know, I'm trying to stop him from getting richer and richer on crypto. The more money he has, the more powerful he has, the more he will elect people. So we got a lot of work to do.
So bodies on the street, basically.
Bodies on the street. People on the street. Absolutely.
Ms. Waters, before we let you go, anything that you can say to anybody watching or the public that wants to come out here, or just simply watching, or wants to know anything that you want to tell them that they should do or shouldn't do?
Well, here's what I want to support. I want to support people having a voice. Peaceful protests are okay. They're all right. I want them to know what happened in the civil rights movement, where we got on the street, where we marched, where we fought, and we made the government change, and we got voting rights. Peacefully. And so people can protest peacefully. They should come out, and they should have a voice, and they should not allow the intimidation to force them to do nothing. Do something.
Do something.
Something.
Do not let the intimidation force you to do nothing. Do
Yes.
something. Words from Congresswoman here, Maxine Waters. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known, and welcome to the second American Civil War.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm Neil Anderson, your co-pilot, and we have tons of headlines to get through. We have travel information, recalls, and of course, the Trump clan immigration takeover.
Yeah, see, the thing, Maxine Waters, of course, is always on the front lines, but the thing that she and so many others, understandably so, get twisted when they talk about civil rights is that you have presidents like Kennedy and Johnson and even Eisenhower. They were not, they may have been racist in their own way, but they did not have the type of hate in their heart that this administration has. So it's a different animal, in my opinion.
Yeah, so here's what we know so far that's happening here in Los Angeles. According to Mayor Karen Bass, at least 50 people have been detained by ICE. That's in contrast to Stephen Miller and Homeland Security last week saying that they wanted 3,000 a day to be detained. And Stephen Miller was pretty pissed off that ICE at the time was only focusing on criminals. He said he wants them all. Also, we know that only 300 National Guard have been deployed to LA, and that's downtown. This is according to Mayor Karen Bass. And when CNN interviewed the mayor of Paramount, which is another heavy targeted ICE area, she said at the time the National Guard was not there yet. Mayor Bass also said that LA is capable of handling what's happening in her city, and that the Trump administration bringing the National Guard in has only escalated what we saw yesterday when protesters shut down the 101. They said at least 50 people have been arrested as far as protesters are concerned. Governor Gavin Newsom has confirmed California will file a lawsuit against the Trump administration today. And the city of Glendale has decided to end its agreement with U.S. Homeland Security to house fellow federal immigration detainees. And finally, that video from Congress member Maxine Waters, she was going to go check on SEIU California president David Huerta. There is a protest happening today led by SEIU at Grant Park at 11 a.m., and so the protest will continue today going into the fourth day. And it's a lot. And we're going to have Jasmyne Cannick, contributor to the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper, as well as a very popular activist and strategist here in LA to join us to give us more on this story.
Yeah, and for those who may not understand the geographics of Los Angeles, because Neil mentioned Paramount, she mentioned Glendale. If you are from like New York, for instance, that's almost, it's not exactly like, but it's almost like saying Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island. That they're all within the proximity there. There's Los Angeles County, Los Angeles City, and then there's the valleys, et cetera, but they all within the proximity. Just for folks who may not know, when you say Paramount, when you say Glendale, Calabasas, et cetera. So just to clear that up, if that needed to be cleared.
Paramount is LA County, and it's also should be noted that Los Angeles City is LAPD, which is Mayor Karen Bass. LA County is the Sheriff's Department, which is led by our county supervisor of the 2nd District, which is Holly J. Mitchell. And LA County is bigger than LA City, just so you know. And that's where you have all of these other little cities falling in, like Paramount, Hawthorne. And it should be noted, too, that all eyes are on California because we have over 1 million undocumented immigrants in our Southern California alone. When you look at this statistic, you can understand why the Trump administration is targeted, not just because of the large amount of undocumented immigrants, but also because California is one of the most progressive states. And you heard the back and forth with Newsom and Trump this weekend, and Trump saying that maybe he should pull our funding, and Governor Gavin Newsom saying, well, we give you more money than any state, so maybe we should hold our money. And so there's going to be a battle, not just for immigration reform, but to see how progressive states handle this Trump administration plan and its impact, deadly impact on communities of color.
And Maxine Waters kind of touched on it when we saw in that video. But RNG is bringing it home, and he's absolutely right. I looked this up too. Without the ICE raids, and this is what's got Trump and his people fuming. This is why they had that meeting last week. We want 3,000 a day, no less than 3,000 a day to capture these people. But without the ICE raid, Joe Biden, his administration deported more people per month than Donald Trump. And Trump knows that. He's very much aware of that. He's very much aware of Barack Obama's immigration deportation record as well. So they are upset that they had this huge meeting last week. I think we reported on it last week as well. They are angry that they have not met their quota. And so they're going all out with this. But
and I think it should be noted too that Stephen Miller and Stephen Bannon had that meeting last week. Stephen Bannon wasn't there, but we know who pulls Stephen Miller's buttons. And I think it also should be noted, while all of this was happening over the weekend, Donald Trump had time Saturday to go to a wrestling UFC fight on Saturday, and then spent yesterday at his golf course while all of this was happening. And he just decided to send a tweet here and there, and of course called the governor. And so that's just what our president is doing, causing mayhem while he attends a UFC fight. And
it also shows you, it also shows you this idea of getting rid of waste, this spending that they keep talking about, the saving money. It has already, and it's been less than 6 months that this man has been in office, and he's already cost taxpayers over $30 million for golfing alone. That's not wasteful spending. So let's be real. We have a black pop quiz this morning. There it is. Let's get to the quiz before we move on. We do have, as she mentioned too, a guest coming up shortly as well to talk more about the situation in Los Angeles and beyond. But the Black Pop Quiz is in 1854. This future U.S. diplomat and founding dean of Howard University's law school broke legal barriers in Ohio. Name him. So let's get the chat ramped up. I want to know who this person is. In 1854, this future U.S. diplomat and founding dean of Howard University's law school broke legal barriers in Ohio. Name him, folks. Let's see the chat ramp up here. In other news this morning, the city of Portland will pay $8.5 million to 26 descendants of Black families displaced from North Portland's once thriving Central Albina neighborhood during mid-20th century development projects. The federal lawsuit filed in 2022 accused Portland, Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center, and Prosper Portland of conspiring to destroy Black homes and businesses through urban renewal and eminent domain policies. After emotional testimony, the city council unanimously raised the settlement from $2 million to $8.5 million, including $1 million from Prosper Portland. The city acknowledged systemic discrimination and will transfer land back to descendants and establish an annual Descendants Day. The original hospital expansion project that triggered the displacement was never completed, and it left the area vacant for decades. So some reparations, if you will, in Portland.
For sure. But I think this also brings up a larger conversation and a reminder about a correction that the Biden administration was trying to do with this infrastructure bill, which addressed a lot of these redlining and these instances like this. For example, Interstate 95 in Miami. It ran through a Black town instead of a railroad track that they could have easily done, destroyed a Black community called Overtown. Interstate 40 in Nashville, intentionally routed through North Nashville, a Black community, messed that one. Interstate 81, Syracuse. And so you have all of these instances where the government specifically targeted Black communities, and instead of them running it through a place where it wouldn't impact the communities, they decided to destroy the Black communities, which falls on the whole concept of systemic racism in this country. And although, you know, that's good that it's acknowledged, there's so many other places all across this country that have decreased the growth of Black people in this country.
Listen, you look no further than Washington, D.C., right? Washington used to proudly call itself Chocolate City. And with all of the gentrification, the redlining, as you mentioned, and the policies, forget about it. It's dwindling by the day, it seems, in Black population.
For sure. For sure. We make up what, less than 13% of the national population. But yet, when you look at the statistics of disenfranchisement, whether it be health, whether it be wealth, we are the highest statistic. But yes, the least amount of people in this entire country. It's insane.
Yeah, it is insane that when you think about the hate directed toward Black Americans and the fear that people claim to have of Black Americans. The only real fear, and I think Trump, the citizen, said it himself way back, and I believe Grizz played this video a couple of times back in like 1990, that he felt that they had a leg up because they were something that he said along the lines of being smart, and he wishes that he was Black or something. He said something crazy about wishing being Black or whatever, and he feel like he would have such a leg up or whatever. But they fear that. We saw baseball executives, the Los Angeles Dodgers' Al Campanis back in the 80s, talk about how Blacks lack the necessities, and immediately the pushback. They lack the necessities of being in charge on the baseball field, which was crazy. But the pushback was immediate, and it was really, really profound. You've had such success there. We're going to get into, I mentioned baseball because it's a way of getting into what our next story is too, which is, we're going to stay into sports, but Black folks have, being such a small part of the population, has really caused so many other folks to want to come at us. And Trump is doing, he's doing that. Him and Stephen Miller, like you said, Stephen Bannon, they are doing the work. And you said this, and I laughed at this because it's such a really cool statement, but they are making their ancestors proud.
100%. But guess what? We're making our ancestors proud too. And we will not be denied. And I think we spoke to that when we look at what's happening with our nation. We overwhelmingly, over 90% of Black women, over 85% of Black men, we did what we were supposed to do back in November. And so now we're kind of evaluating, figuring out how we fit in. But at the most part, we did our part, and we're looking at this country literally fall apart. But it's not on our watch. Not on our watch. We did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, and again, we're going to get into that with our guest as well. So stay tuned. Our guest is a few minutes away. But in the meantime, I mentioned the sports story, a thrilling display of just simple resilience, such greatness and grit. 21-year-old Coco Gauff captured her first French Open title on Saturday, defeating the number one player in the world, Ariana Sabalenka, and it was a dramatic Grand Slam final. Coco became the youngest American since Serena Williams in 2002 to win the prestigious event, according to the WTA Tennis Association. After the match, an emotional Coco said, quote, "I don't think honestly that I could do it. I didn't think honestly that I could do it." Then she quoted Tyler, the creator, when she said, I must have been lying to myself because I could do it. Despite losing the opening set in a tight tiebreak, Coco battled through swirling winds and her opponent's powerful baseline play to take control in the second and third sets. She broke her opponent 4 times in the final 2 sets and held her uh, nerve to seal the win, and she collapsed on the court in disbelief. But what I want to say is that Sabalenka is the one of the worst losers. They say sore losers. One of the worst display of unsportsmanlike behavior. I mean, she made some statements, basically gave Coco no credit whatsoever for the win, saying, basically it was, she did this, she did that, and complained about just about everything under the sun, except she did everything except congratulate Coco. And I'm with RNG. Turn the tables. If Coco had lost and did the same thing that Sabalenka did, it would be an outrage. I mean, I saw Chrissy Everett's comments about it, although she kind of said, yeah, well, Sabalenka, I understand where she's coming from or whatever. She still didn't really give enough credit. She gave some credit to Coco, but didn't give enough credit, in my view, to Coco. And it's ridiculous to see a pro athlete, a world champion, behave the way Sabalenka behaved.
Yeah, sometimes when they lose, they do that. But for Coco, I just think it's great that she was able to bring the French Open back to the United States, because no one had won it since Serena. So it's been a really long time since a United States woman has held that trophy. And thanks to Coco, we're holding it now. And so definitely want to give her much kudos, and her being relevant with the whole Tyler the Creator song, "We Gonna Make It Out." And she's just so gracious about even her response to what her opponent had to say. She brushed it off like, I don't agree with that. But she took her moment with grace, and pride and dignity. And it was just a beautiful moment to see for her to take that trophy home. And so now, where does she head next? Is it to the Wimbledon or US Open?
Wilmington is next,
Good for her.
and U.S. Open is usually the end of August. But as Dr. Nicole says, you don't expect that behavior. The number one seed, they don't do that. That was disgraceful. But Nancy Wall says it best. Why are we surprised? But good for Coco. Like the joy she showed her family. I enjoy watching, and this is not the first time. It's like every time. A big contingent of her family is there rooting her on, hugging her, showing her love. Spike Lee came out there showing her love. He was courtside. There was so many people showing this young lady love. I love that trophy, by the way. Nice looking trophy.
Right.
Really
Yeah.
dig
Good
it.
for her.
Yeah. So yeah, good for her. She she is undaunted. She a lot of criticism, a lot of controversy, and whatever it is, she's focused, and
Right.
you got to give her credit. At 21 years old,
I mean, I think you learn. Look at what Serena and Venus went through. I mean, and when they first came into the game, they had beads on every braid, and not just two beads, but like
he's on every
15 on
braid.
every braid.
Mhm.
And so they came in unapologetic. And so they took a lot more heat than they walked so she could run. You know what I mean? And so what's happened to her, I mean, was lightweight compared to what Venus and Serena had to go through just to even be able to compete on this level, you know, and all the heat that their father took. And so, like they say, they walk so she can run. And so she's probably watched their matches, she's seen what they've gone through. So it's no surprise how, the entitlement of tennis. Tennis is such an elite sport. You know what I mean? And so just the whole practicing on a tennis court as a Black person is much more different than going to play basketball or football. And so the eliteness of that sport within itself, they don't feel like we belong. And so
Yeah.
you know, like I say, good for her. And can't wait to see what's next. I think now more eyeballs will be on tennis as usual. More black folks and more people all around will be paying attention to tennis because of that win.
Yeah, and I think and you mentioned Serena and Venus paving the way, but let's give credit where credit is due also. Arthur Ashe really took the bullets for all of them.
For
And
sure.
that is it's quite a story. You're right about tennis. It's such an elitist thing and very expensive to try and get involved in, and that's where too I think Richard Williams really deserves so much credit because that guy was not, he didn't care. He was going to, even if it meant mortgaging the homes or whatever. He knew what he had with his girls, Serena and Venus. Nothing was going to stop him. The elitist attitude, the money that it took, and just the will and resolve. So you're 100% right about them. Althea Gibson, right? David Young, but we got to go back and give what she may have gone through. So yeah, a lot there. One other thing I want to get to
Kicks in
is
butt and exit out the back door. In 1956, Gibson made an international.
there's Althea Gibson. Other things we wanted to get to, before our guests is veteran entrepreneurs and authors Dante Lee and Kelly B. Brooks. They've teamed up to launch blackauthors.com, which aims to help more than 1,000 aspiring African American authors start and finish their books by the end of 2025. Their full service publishing company offers writing, ghostwriting, editing, book cover design, printing, and even marketing services. In recent years, there's been a notable increase in the number of African American authors contributing to the literary world, I should say. I said word. But as of 2022, approximately 13.5% of children's and young adults' books were penned by Black authors, marking a significant rise from the 9% in 2021. So good for these two starting this. Yes, Black excellence is the word or the phrase of the morning because this is fantastic. Blackauthors.com, Kelly B. Brooks and Dante Lee.
Yeah, I think Dante Lee owns blacknews.com, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
And so he's always doing these ventures to uplift and empower Black creatives. So this falls right in line with what he does over there at blacknews.com. But I also think it's important too, because when we look at what's happening with Black narratives,
Yes.
when you look at books and even content, you know, that is being created, has, you know, its climb. It's always been a climb for us to get Black content on television and things like that. But with this new DEI, it gives production companies and publishing companies the opportunity to say no more than
Right.
they've been saying. And so for us to be able to still be able to create space for ourselves is to what our chat and family is saying about Black excellence. Like we will still, like, Trump and them may be their wildest, their ancestors' wildest dreams, but guess what? We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, and we will continue to create the Black experience, which is the American experience in this country.
Absolutely. And so
Right, right.
well, go
So,
ahead, Neo. We got a guest.
yeah. So with that being said, I mean, we've talked about all these things. Our guest right now, she is a total tennis advocate. I wish she could have been here when we were talking about Coco Golf. I know she's going to have something to say. But our guest coming up is a contributor to the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper, which is part of the Black press family. She's an activist, a culture creator, a strategist, a journalist. And yesterday she took to social media to talk about what's happening here in LA. Take a look at what Jasmyne Cannick had to say.
This weekend has been really heavy here in Los Angeles. And I just wanted to share some thoughts that I had on a question, or rather a comment that was given to me. A friend of mine who is Latino said to me that they wished more Black people would speak up and get in the streets about what's happening with immigrants and the ICE raids. And I was like, same, but probably not for the reasons you think. Because the way I see it, there are two conversations to have. One we have with family amongst Black people, and one that's a little bit bigger. What I'm about to say lives in that broader convo, and it requires us to not skip over some much needed context that folks love to ignore. A lot of Black Americans don't feel connected to the immigration conversation because, well, we didn't immigrate, and that's fair and valid. We were stolen. Frankly, most Black Americans haven't even traced their lineage past some random state in the South because this country made damn sure our history started at the auction blocks, not Ellis Island. So no, immigration doesn't always feel like our issue because the system was never built for us to see ourselves in it. Doesn't mean immigration isn't our issue. I'm just giving you context. Also, let's be honest, the immigrant rights conversation, whether it's pushed by the government, the media, or even some well-meaning activists, has long centered one narrative: Latino. That's who gets the headlines, that's who's on the flyers, that's whose stories get told. Meanwhile, Black immigrants are barely part of the picture unless there's a Border Patrol horse, a whip, and some performative outrage. And now, with Trump issuing a full or partial travel ban on 19 countries, most of them Black, where's that same energy? How many Latino-led immigrant orgs are lifting that up? I'll wait. It's kind of like how white gays turned marriage equality into the sole LGBTQ issue. Because when you've already got the job, the degree, the condo, and a seat at the brunch table, the only thing left to fight for is a matching set of rings and a tax deduction. Look, I want solidarity across many issues for all of us, but let's not pretend it's just gonna fall from the sky. If you want Black people to show up, you gotta show us where we fit in. Show us that we're already a part of the story. Because newsflash, Black immigrants exist, always have, and they've been targeted too, just as hard. Solidarity isn't free, it's earned. And let me be clear, this is not about bashing Latino communities. I stand with our Latino siblings, always. I've marched, I've protested, I've shown up, and I will keep doing that. But standing together also means being real with each other. It means making space for the full picture, even when it's uncomfortable. Solidarity without honesty isn't real solidarity, it's PR. And don't get it twisted, Black folks. You are not off the hook either. We absolutely need to have a real conversation within our own community about how immigration is a Black issue, because Black immigrants are still Black. They're a part of us, and their struggles don't sit outside ours. They're right up in it.
All right.
Hey, what's up, fam? It's your girl, Jasmine.
Jasmyne Cannick, guys. That was powerful, Jasmine.
Thank you.
That was powerful. Let's get started and kind of center everybody as to what's happening right now in LA. A lot of things have been happening over the weekend. I know that you've been paying attention. A lot of protests have been happening. Give us your take on what's happening here in LA.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Let me start there. I'm still waking up. Look, the city is hot. We've seen it before. We've seen it recently with the protests around Black Lives Matter. Those of us who are a little bit older also remember 1992. Look, the city is hot. People are upset, and understandably so. I don't think that it's going to die down today. I think there's going to be additional protests and an opportunity to continue the conversation. There's just, this issue is at the intersection of so many issues, right? There's what I talked about in the piece that you just ran. There's the issue of, a militarized community, an over-policed community, this rhetoric that we're getting from the government and even the mainstream news media on what is actually happening in the streets and why it's happening. We have the Trump administration adding flames to the fire, sending the National Guard into our city. And, as a journalist and also as a comm strategist, this is where I get I get messed up because I look at the news from a different type of lens. Like I'm like, okay, I was getting ready this morning and I was listening to the news, and I'm listening to the news, not talking heads, not people like me who come on and give their opinions. I'm supposed to be listening to the news. And the news is saying, and there's agitators who are just out there to cause trouble. They don't even care about that. How do you know that?
Right.
So we have a lot of that stuff going on, right? A lot of fanning the flames, even from the news media, which I will be calling out today because that is absolutely ridiculous. From the helicopter, news reporters who think they know everything that's going on, and people probably don't even pay attention to the words coming out of their mouth, but I do. To the folks who are sitting behind the desk reporting the evening news to you. And at the end of the day, for me, every time I hear them say something about peaceful protest, how peaceful would you be if your dad was taken, your mom was taken, your son was taken? Let me put it in white people's terms. How peaceful would you be if your dog was taken?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Jasmine, I'm gonna simply go back to your video, and I'm gonna summarize what I've heard a lot. And this is what I've heard a lot, and I want you to respond. Folks say, "Don't ask Black America to shout louder than the silence that met Black America," because nearly half, 46% of Latino voters backed Donald Trump. That was after Project 2025.
Yes.
Which, of course, the Heritage Foundation's 900-page blueprint had already laid bare what a second Trump term would look like: a war on Black folks, a war on immigrants, the poor, and most people of color. So when the ICE raids began, when families are being torn apart, when the National Guard rolled into neighborhoods in the name of immigration enforcement, Black Americans had already read the script and understood the assignment. Black Americans were in it too. On page 95, Project 2025 called for mass deportations, the abolition of DHS, and the creation of a centralized federal force to police immigration. Pages 97 to 100 detailed a plan to deputize local law enforcement and militarize removal operations. Page 65 spell out how the federal government would stop investigating civil rights violations when it came to Black folks. So I can go on and on and on. Yet 46% of Latinos, and we keep seeing the posts from Latinos from Trump, this person for Trump, that person for Trump, don't expect Black folks to come to your aid at this point. Why do you want Black folks on the front lines when you kept quiet? Not only did you keep quiet, but Jasmine, they went out and said, "Bring on Trump. We want Trump."
Yes, they absolutely did. And that's a fair and valid part of the conversation as well, right? There are many Black folks who are squarely in their FAFO mode right now. Okay. And we can't ignore that. That's fair. That's very valid. But at the same time, I just think people need to be a little bigger in their thinking in terms of big picture. You can sit around and be mad that Latinos supported Trump. And while you're doing that, there are two other things that are happening. One, your Black brothers and sisters are still being picked up and deported. And I'm talking about our African brothers and sisters, our West Indian brothers and sisters. So if you claim to be, you claim to love Black people, you claim to support Black people, that support cannot stop at the border. That support cannot just be for Black Americans. It also has to be for Black immigrants, because Black immigrants face the same issues that Black people face, period. And then on top of that, they're also immigrants. So again, you can be mad with Latinos for their support of Trump, and you turning your back and trying to ignore this issue and make it out to be not a Black issue hurts other Black people. And I don't know how you do that if you care for Black people. And then the other issue is this: we are living in a country that is becoming more and more authoritarian. So you want to sit around and be mad that Latinos supported Trump and rest in your FAFO mode. And I get that. And I understand that. At the same time, we all need to be out there right now because all of our lives are at stake. You think in this moment, this is about Latinos. It is not. It is about all of us. They keep moving the goalposts. What is a criminal today is not going to be what a criminal is tomorrow. What is illegal today is going to change tomorrow. And you think because you were born here that somehow you're safe. When we have watched American citizens be deported.
Right.
I think we have to get out of that thinking because when it shows up at our doorsteps, we are not going to know what to do. Because again, we want to sit around and be upset that Trump is in office. That's like crying over spilled milk. It's done. He's there. We need to be figuring out how we survive the next 4 years.
Right. I think another point to bring up is, yes, Latinos did overwhelmingly, but we look at police sanctioned violence, and that's what's happening. Military sanctioned violence. When we look at what's happening with ICE, we don't know if those are KKK members. We don't know if those are January 6 rioters because they're wearing masks. And now you have a bill.
They don't want you to wear masks.
Right, but they don't want us to wear masks.
masks.
Right. And now they have a bill that they're presenting to have anybody to report an ICE agent can go to jail because they don't want to be reported. I mean, they're taking us backwards. So I think it's the immigration piece, but I think it's the police and militarized sanctioned violence that is happening as Black folks that we have to pay attention to as well. But
It's
a bigger issue.
It's making America white again. And these are the steps that they're taking to make America white again.
Yeah. So my question now, is this a call and is it time for solidarity between the Black and brown community? Is this the moment?
This is a call for solidarity between all of us humans who are not in the cult. So it's a time for solidarity with everyone who understands what is at stake, what is happening in our country. There are those of us who are a little bit older. I'm in my 40s, and I would say people who are like Gen X and older have a different perspective of what we're seeing because we have lived through some things in this country, right? If you're from LA, you lived through 1992. If you're a little bit older, I believe the Watts riots were in 1964, 65. So you've seen some things, right? I feel bad for these younger people who grew up in a world thinking, hey, everything is fine. I can live my fabulous life. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to work. I don't have to do this, blah, blah, blah. And now they're looking around like, okay, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on
here? What
the
hell?
Yes, what the hell, basically, right? We are in a changing country. And I think for many, many years, we have had it very easy here, just in terms of things haven't been perfect, never been perfect, never. But when you look at how we live versus how the rest of the world lives, things have been relatively easy for us. We need to be having conversations with other folks outside of the country whose governments collapsed, people who had to live under coups, people who had to watch their country go from being a democracy, right, to a one-person rule or one family rule situation. We need to be reading. We need to be paying attention. It's all there. It is all spelled out, not just because of Project 2025, but just we have seen this playbook happen before, just not here. And so we all need to be standing together right now. Those of us, again, not in the cult, we all need to be standing together right now because it is not just about Black, brown. It is about us, period, as people. And like I said before, it doesn't matter if you think you're one of the good people, because you pay your taxes, because you keep your head down, because you don't commit any crimes. None of that matters. None of it matters anymore.
I think you're 100% right on that. First and foremost, I see we do have some Trump supporters in the chat. Please articulate to us, if you will, if you can, why all this is good in your view. I mean, it's fine you support him, but articulate to us. We've never had anybody really articulate to us why you think this is good
You're
for
not good
America or
at
for
that.
anybody. Right. And
Never be
the
good.
other thing is, what RNG is saying is what again, Jasmine, I hear a lot of Black folks say. He says, sorry, I am not protesting. Black people are always capping when other folks are being mistreated. He says, this brother is minding my Black owned business. And he said that what's missing here is that 46% of Latino Hispanic voters will vote for MAGA again. I am staying out of it. I hear so many
Okay.
people with that.
Okay, and you want to live in that land, you live in that land. But understand that is not going to save you or your family. You deciding because they voted for Trump, they deserve to F around FO is not going to save you or your family from being black bag, from being the next door they kick in and drag out because they've moved the goalpost and changed the laws. And now you wearing that red shirt is against the law, or you wearing those Nike tennis shoes is against the law. None of that is going to save you. That is the problem we have. We cannot think bigger as a people. That is so much. Yes. It is part of the reason we are in this situation. Do we stay in that situation and sulk? Or do we move on with our lives and try to figure out how we all survive? So on the other side of this, so in 2026, because best believe the other part of Project 2025, which doesn't get talked about as much, is how it's not just about what's going on at the national level. It is about getting on these water boards, getting on these school boards, getting on these city councils, getting on these college boards, and wreaking havoc and enacting Project 2025 at the local level to support what's going on at the federal level. You want to sit up there and mind your own Black business, and you're going to mind your own Black business right into your grave. You are not going to be saved. No one's going to save you. You're going to be sitting up there sulking while the world is crumbling all around you just because you're
Jasmine,
upset.
the question becomes, where's this passion when there's Black folks on the receiving end of this, though? We see so much passion, and
It's there.
from
I
who?
agree.
Black
Let me
folks?
tell you something.
Wait. From who? From Black folks. The passion comes from Black folks. We don't see white folks and Hispanic folks and other folks showing this type of passion, the passion that Jasmine is showing for this issue. We don't see that from other folks when it's Black issues.
Okay, so let's be clear. Let's be real clear, though. My passion comes from this coffee, and it comes from the fact that I love Black people. Okay, it comes from the fact that.
Right.
So I'm not sitting up here with all this passion because I want Black people on the front lines for Latinos. I want Black people to be thinking about their own humanity, their own survival, and our survival doesn't happen by ourselves. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to work. You take LA, Neil will tell you, right? We're outnumbered here. What are we, 4% of the population here? So again, I'm just saying, if it's about survival, us minding our own Black business has not gotten us very far to begin with. And it will not carry us through the next 4 years. So we really need to rethink that. And again, as I said in my piece, 2 conversations, the broader conversation, that conversation with hard truths and feelings hurt that we need to have with the Latino community, but also that conversation we need to have amongst ourselves as family. It's the conversation about why do we turn our noses down at Black immigrants? Why do we act like immigration is not a Black issue? Why do we act like just because we were born here that somehow if we don't what happens, you think, when we trace our roots back far enough? Where do you think we come from? Denver? Where do you think we come from? London? We come from Africa. So Black immigrants are Black people. They are us. So as, again, 2 conversations that we have to have as family, but we need to understand at the root of everything should be our survival, should be humanity. And I'm sorry, I'm mad and angry as hell too about Latinos supporting Trump. Do not think I'm not sitting over here like, but I got to think bigger than that.
Right.
I got to think bigger than that right now, because me sitting in that and stewing in that doesn't save my Black behind from anything.
I think also another point to bring up is that we're talking about immigration, but when we look at what's happening here in California and we look at police sanctioned violence, we think about military action and we think about the next step of martial law. So I think all of these things are relative and connected. And so you might not want to be on the front line for Latinos, quote unquote. But the bigger picture is how this Trump Klan administration is moving to have military policing in this country. It's all relative. It's all relative.
He said it. Instagram at Hello Jasmine. It is on my Instagram. He said it. He said, the reporter asked about bringing the military into LA. His words were, we're going to have the military everywhere. Everywhere. Message everywhere.
Right. So let's just talk about if martial law was enacted. Civilians' rights are suspended. Military replaces local law enforcement. Curfews, checkpoints, detainments without warrants. Protests can be forcibly ended. Media can be censored. You no longer have the right to assemble or speak freely. So we're looking at immigration reform, but we're also, we're looking at immigration, but we're also looking at a military takeover by the government. And so you can't have one without the other. This is a larger conversation, and we should be much more concerned about the bigger picture than just Latinos and supporting them.
Absolutely. And let me just tell you, for all my folks in Los Angeles, if I were you, I'd hit that grocery store up. I would make sure I had some water. I would make sure I had some food. I would just make sure, just maybe for a week or so, that you have enough to get by in case, it pops off more than it already has and something does happen. We have seen curfews. We have seen all of these things happen in our city before, right? And, we should be prepared because I do believe that is the direction that we're headed in. Will it happen at this juncture in his tenure, his administration? I don't know. It could be down the line. It could be something else, but I just know that we are headed in that direction and folks better be prepared. Absolutely need to be prepared, because when they do enact that, when that does come down, you won't be able to go to the grocery store. You won't be able to go get gas from the gas station. You won't be able to move around freely and do a lot of things that you can do today. And I don't think, again, that we think big picture. And I know it's hard because sometimes we are just trying to live to get through the day, doing the best we can with what we have, just trying to get through the next 24 hours. But sometimes, particularly in times like this, you need to think a little bit longer than the next 24 hours. I know one of the things I did over the weekend was hit that grocery store. Let me get this water. Let me get this food. Let me get this, just in case, because I've seen it happen before. And you don't want to be at home with no food. There will be no DoorDash. There will be no Uber Eats. There will be none of that. They're already burning up Waymo cars. Okay. So,
for real.
You'll be on your own. You and your family will be on your own. And these are the things that we need to think about. And lastly, I also want to say, people need to stop thinking about it as being on the front lines for Latinos. You're being on the front lines for yourself, for your community, and for humanity. Again, this is an issue that affects all of us. Again, I keep hearing from people, I'm not a criminal. I'm an American. I'm good. They're just doing it to illegals. Their words, not mine. Okay. Those definitions are rolling. They change all the time. And I don't know what's so hard for Black people to understand about that. The definitions change. They move the goalpost all the time. Today you think you're legal, and tomorrow you will be illegal.
Right. And I think that by you saying that, bringing up the point of Stephen Miller was pissed last week because he found out that they were only going after criminals. He said, no, go. He literally said, go to Home Depot. And what did you see over the weekend? They was at Home Depot. So they do move the goalposts.
this is LA. Let's be really clear. If they want to go after undocumented people, they are in fertile ground, right? Because this is sort of like ground zero, right? You know, California, like Texas and other border states, yes, we do have a lot of folks that come here through Mexico. Look, at the end of the day, like I said, you are not safe in your Blackness. You are not safe in the fact that you think that you are not a criminal. You are not safe in the fact that you pray to Jesus and God every single day. Okay. Because right now and in this moment, in this country, things are changing, and they're changing very rapidly. Neil, you brought up an excellent point. It was always supposed to be about the bad hombres. It was always supposed to be, not that that made it any better. I'm just saying what he said, right? It was always supposed to be about the bad people, the bad hombres, the this and the that. Now it's you at your graduation, your grandmother, your grandfather, your mother, your father. They do not care. They do not care at all.
Wow. Well, too bad we don't have more time, Jasmine. Well,
thank you for having me. It's certainly a discussion worth having. I am absolutely sure this is not over yet. So who knows, maybe we'll jump back into it at some point, but I don't think this is over by a long shot at all.
And we want to thank you. On Thursday, we have an immigration lawyer coming on to talk about the impact it's going to have on Black, Caribbeans, Africans. And so thank you for that as well, Jasmine. We look forward to having that conversation on Thursday.
Yeah, I can't
Please
wait
come
to
again.
watch it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jasmine. Have a good one.
All
right.
Interesting. It got people fired up one way or the other. Wow.
Wow. All right. We are short on time, so we have just a few more headlines to go through. And these are important headlines. In a wide-reaching health alert, August Egg Company, based here in California, has announced a voluntary recall of more than 20 million eggs. That's equivalent to 1.7 million dozen. Now, the egg distributed between February, May of 2025, with the best buy dates ranging from March 4th to June 19th. The eggs were available at major retailers like Walmart, Safeway, Food Max, and Smart and Final, and they've been distributed to the following states: California, Arizona, Nevada, Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska, New Mexico, Washington, and Wyoming.
Good Lord.
So this is a voluntary recall from the distributor, because we know that the FDA has decided not to put out these recalls anymore. And so now you have the companies, thank God that they did the right thing and they made this recall announcement, or you could be eating bad eggs because the government doesn't want to let you know what's in the food anymore.
Goodness, it's total and complete chaos. As we said at the top, Mike V said it. I believe it. This is a civil war now.
Yeah, the CDC,
all is a remnants of it.
Right. The CDC has reported 79 cases, including 21 hospitalizations. No fatalities to date. We'll definitely keep you posted on that. This is funny, but not funny. TSA is taking to social media to remind travelers that Costco membership cards are not valid for an ID for airport security. Now, they took to social media yesterday saying, "We love hot dogs and rotisserie chickens as much as the next person, but please stop telling people their Costco card counts as a real ID, because it absolutely does not." Now, as part of the May 7th Real ID requirement, U.S. passports are acceptable, as well as federally approved identification to fly domestically. The real ID, but not a Costco card. I don't know where this started, but it was enough for TSA to take to social media and put out that statement.
Wow.
Yeah, and HBCU news. Unfortunately, Fisk University is ending its historic gymnastics program. Now, after starting the nation's first HBCU program back in 2023, FIS made the decision to end the program at the conclusion of the 2025-2026 gymnastics season. Now, if you recall, Morgan Price, the biggest star at FIS gymnastics program, got ahead of this announcement. So now she is declaring her intent to transfer to the University of Arkansas. That was such a great announcement for Fisk, and now to see that it's going away. But they also said this has to do with the new settlement for the NIL deals,
Yes.
name and likeness deals, and now that colleges have to put money into bringing recruitments to their school. They say they just don't have the capital to be able to compete with other gymnastics programs. And so we had a couple of deaths in the music industry that we definitely want to highlight. Wayne Lewis, lead singer and founding member of Atlantic Starr, has died at 68. In a post shared on the group's official Facebook page, they wrote, "It's with great sadness we have to post the passing of Wayne Lewis. He died on June 5th, and they're asking for us to please keep the family and the group in our prayers and to respect their privacy." Now, if you recall, the group is famous for Always and Secret Lovers that topped the Billboard Hot 100 charts in the 80s. Cause of death has not yet been disclosed. And finally, pastor and gospel singer Norman Hutchins has died at the age of 62. Now, Hutchins died at his home here in California on Friday after a long battle with diabetes and kidney failure. Hutchins earned multiple Dove, Stellar, and Grammy nominations with his signature songs like Jesus, I Love You, Emmanuel, and God's Got a Blessing. Those were staples. You hear them in your churches on Sunday morning. And so we want to lift up Pastor Norman Hutchins and Wayne Lewis from Atlantic Starr.
All right, so we are essentially out of time, but we're going to get to the answer to our Black Pop quiz, which again, the question was, in 1854, this future U.S. diplomat and founding dean of Howard University's law school broke legal barriers in Ohio. Can you name him? And who is he? John Mercer Langston. I would never have guessed. John.
Did anybody
Mercer
in the
Langston.
chat? Did anybody?
Nobody.
In the chat?
Not a single soul. So they were just as uneducated about this as we were. So there you go. John Mercer Langston. And folks, we will quickly, the Black-owned newspaper of the day is the Atlanta Inquirer. The Inquirer's motto has always been to seek out the truth and report it without fear or favor. And the publishers say it's became not only an educational tool, but a distinctive, viable route of communicating news of and by and within the African-American community upon the paper's creation back in August of 1960. So the Atlanta Inquirer is our Black-owned newspaper. They check them out, folks.
Oh, yeah. You definitely want to keep up with Black Press USA. I'm sure we'll be tracking what's happening here in California and across the nation with all of the headlines that are impacting the Black experience. I'm Niele Anderson. Stacey has left the building, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.